Ah! Hey guys, Ty here. I just had a scary thought. Saving money. Ugh, can't even stand the thought of that. But hypothetically speaking, I know I get a lot of comments, right? Get a lot of comments about how this game is expensive. When I talk about a game I get, and it's like, wow, that's expensive. You're a moron for paying that much. And it's like, I know. But what if you didn't want to be a moron like me and wanted to collect for the 3DS, but you're doing it on a budget? That budget and video games typically do not mix very well. However, I've sat around this week and I thought a little bit about it, and I kind of broke down, how to play 3DS games on a budget, and the current year things are going and in the direction they're going. That's hard hard to do. So yeah, let's get right into gaming on 3DS on a budget. So before I get too far into this, this is not the same. Some of you may be thinking this is kind of similar to different ideas, like collecting games in 2022, which I talked a lot about 3DS games, and it is similar, but it's also more focused and with a certain budget in mind. We're gonna try to keep it around, like, I think a realistic price if you want to get into this is $250. And I say that because there's different ways you can approach this and ways to stretch your money. $250 is probably about how much this model of 3DS will cost you, the Galaxy new 3DS XL specifically. Typically, what I see online, if you're curious, the models, they go for about like 100-ish, 80 to 100 for like the 2DS, the original 2DS, and the original 3DS, the little baby one. I hear a lot of people say the Wedge 2DS is like the best feeling console ever. I think it exists. I think it looks funny more than anything. I've never had one. I've used one, and I don't know, I thought, yep, this is a piece of plastic in my hands, but I never was wowed by it, though maybe things would change now, I don't know. Personally, I prefer the new models, which is the new 2DS XL or the new 3DS XL. There is a new 3DS XL, and I don't really see that one pop up very often. Most of the times when that one pops up, it's a limited edition one where it's got special faceplates, which typically increase the price of them. I don't really have a price range for the new 3DS, or just the new Nintendo 3DS, but typically the new 2DS and a new 3DS XL probably gonna run you about $200 is what I'd say is like a good price to get. 200, 220. Obviously, look at things like Facebook Marketplace, eBay, any sort of shopping app. You'll find someone slipping. I always, like, in these videos, I always talk about catch people slipping. Like, there are people that think they know what they have, and there's people that don't know what they have. You want to find the latter, because typically not knowing what you have is a downfall for them, but for you, it benefits you. You're getting something a lot cheaper than a lot of people are selling it for. Now, I'm also going to get this part out of the way. Obviously, there are ways to game on the 3DS on a budget that we won't really talk too much about today. But if that is your thing, I don't know what you're talking about. So again, let's go back to $200. And you're like, well, you just said, well, $250. You just said, well, what if I want a new 3DS, or if I want a new 2DS? Well, you're probably going to blow through a lot of that budget right away. And I know $250 is like a lot for people, but save a little bit day by day, and you can easily get to that much money if you have the means to say this is an expensive hobby at the end of the day. And I tried to set a fair, realistic price for wanting to get into this. So you just already blew about $200. Next thing is games. A lot of places that, like, if you're going to like a game store or even online, a lot of people sell them with the charger. You're not going to really need to worry about charger, stylus, all of that. The games is the next part. A lot of 3DS games are either really cheap or really expensive. I'm going to have to break it to you guys. The Yokai Watch series just might not be for you if you're doing this on a little bit of a budget. But what are the best games for being on a budget? I always recommend Mario 3D Land. It is such a good game. It exemplifies what the 3DS is. It shows the use of the 3D slider, shows the use of, well, being having the power to do a 3D Mario game like this. Obviously it's not your Galaxy or something like that, but it's still a 3D Mario game. Has a lot of charm, brought back the Tanuki Leaf. It doesn't add a ton, in my opinion, towards like new things from Mario. It does have a propeller block, but similar to the propeller mushroom. But I just think it has a lot of charm in terms of the worlds, and it breaks the model from the 2D Mario overflow we were getting. It's just a nice little break in the game, and it has a ton of content. You play through the game once, uh-oh, more game, uh-oh, time to play as Luigi. Spoilers. It's like a 12-year-old game, guys. I'm sorry. You can play as Luigi in this game. But another good game, that game is like $10-15. Okay. Another good game that we have here is Pilot Wings Resort. This is also another like $10-15 game I see a lot. This one is something I recommend if you're not a Mario guy. I wouldn't say buy Mario and this. This is just another really good example of the 3DS's functionality. It's just really cool. It does make use of the 3D. It's very short. That is the one thing about it. It is very short. It's more of a tech demo than anything. It really it leaves you wanting more. There's missions. There's like 3 types of vehicles. There's not a lot to it, but again, it makes good use of the 3DS. So those two is to me is a pick one or the other. Don't go for both. So we're gonna say you just spent about $15. So now you have $215 spent. You're left with $35. Did that math right? Next, RPG games. The Switch, or the 3DS, excuse me, is a huge RPG machine, and if you want to get into the RPG scene, oh man, you might want to disregard the other one, but a big RPG for a lot of people, big Nintendo one everyone wants to experience, Pokemon. But Pokemon is expensive, guys, expensive. You know, one good way to save money on all this stuff is if you probably want to go the physical route for these like lesser games. When I say lesser, I'm not talking about like your Yokai Watches or your Fire Emblems in general. That actually has gone up a lot. I'm talking more like games that are already cheap. You can get cheaper if you just go for the cartridge only. I see the Pokemon Sun and Moon is the cheapest Pokemon game. It goes around $20 in the case. I'm sure you can find $15 for the cartridge only, or even $15 in the case. Sun and Moon are really great games. I do think Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon are better, but those are $40 games. That would eat up a really big part of our budget here. So I think a good starting spot is Pokemon Sun and Moon, and if you're looking for that Pokemon experience, it shakes it up. It shakes up the franchise a lot too. So if you're just coming back and you're going to be introduced to a whole new experience that is kind of game-changing. Sadly, they kind of dropped it afterwards, but you go around from islands doing like different gym trials. I think they're called like totem trials or something like that. I can't quite remember, but it's unique. It does change up enough to feel like, oh, this is refreshing. Another thing, so there we go. Let's say you got Mario and you got Pokemon. You've just ate up about $35. We're left over with another $15. What can we get? Now, personally, after platformers and RPGs, in my opinion, this might be a little controversial, but the 3DS really was just mainly those 2 type of games. At the end of the day, the majority of the library is platformer or RPG, but there are other games, and you know, with our remaining $15 here, I'll give a couple other options. Luigi's Mansion 2. Luigi's Mansion 2 is a game that you can easily get for about $15. It is I guess an adventure game. I don't really know what to call. It's the Strand-like before Strand-like's were a thing. It's pretty different, like thematically, from Luigi's Mansion 1. Doesn't have that same tone, but it is still a fun game, and One that I really remember, it was like one of the first games on the 3DS I could really remember, like, oh man, this is gaming. um, my opinion probably would have changed by now. I love Luigi's Mansion 1, but at the time it was just something I had, and I was like, wow, great game. And it is a fun game. It is a fun game at the end of the day. Another game that's about $15 is Pokemon Rumble Blast. This game, I mean, it can go for a lot more. I've seen people sell it, but I've also seen people go for the 15. You like beat 'em ups? That's pretty much what Pokemon Rumble Blast is. I don't know what else to tell you. You'd have to watch some gameplay of it to understand a little more. You play as these little Pokemon figurines, and you got attacks, and you go around to world levels. It's a fun little experience. It's not super long. It's also not super short. So for $15, you can't really go wrong there. Some other cheaper games, the Angry Birds games. I recently got Angry Birds Trilogy, and that game is like $8. I know it's like, well, Angry Birds is free on my phone. Something about playing it on your 3DS is kind of enjoyable. It's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable time. There's also Angry Birds Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars fan. Speaking of Star Wars, there's Lego games, some Lego Star Wars. There's like, I think 2 Lego Star Wars games on there. Like pretty much all the Lego games are less than $10. You know, they're sometimes actually pretty different from their console counterparts. The 3DS, I think, is actually the console with like the most Lego games, probably at least rivaling the Xbox 360 and PS3. Seriously, there is a lot of Lego games, like a lot. So if you're into that type of thing, you know, I would obviously look into it a little more. I haven't played every single Lego game. There's even exclusive Lego games. I have one right here because I was too lazy to put it back after a video. I'm pretty sure this did not hit any other platform. I've not heard a lot about it, so that might be telling of the quality, but it is out there for you if that's the type of thing you're into. Another cheap 3DS game to get is these Skylanders games. And now I know you're thinking, I'm not 5. Well, too bad. I have the mental capacity of one, and I like Skylanders. This whole thing, like complete like this, was about like $40. So obviously you might want to rethink it. But a lot of these Skylanders figures at local game stores or online are like $3 a pop. The game's like Par Trap Team. The games are like $5. The portal might be the hardest part to get a lot of times. I've never really looked into how easy it is to obtain a portal, but they are also pretty different from their console counterparts, especially Spyro's Adventure. If that's your type of thing as well. Obviously look into what figures you need. They come with certain figures. Typically they're there for a reason. I'm pretty sure they purposely make it so you need these figures to make it harder to get these games secondhand. But seriously, a lot of these things are like $1. A lot of game stores I've been to have like buy one get ones or buy 5 for like 20. A lot of them are really cheap. There are some that are super expensive, but I digress. That's a different type of game. It's like a beat 'em up platformer adventure game. I don't know. It's cute. I think it's really charming. Now, that's just some suggestions of games, and you know, you're like, those aren't really quality or really well known. And yeah, you're on a budget here, you know, trying to imagine a budget. Now, one last physical budget game, Smash Bros. Smash Bros on 3DS. There are still people out there playing this game, so it's got active online, somewhat active. Obviously, you'll have better time finding an ultimate, but there is active online for that, and is like $12. It is a really fun game. It's got a lot of content. You got trophies. You got the moves to collect. You got you can customize moves for characters. It's got amiibo support. It's got a fun like classic mode. It's got a lot to it. I don't really got much else to say. There's still DLC available. eShop closing soon, so you want to get that whole experience. It's pretty cheap. I think it would run you about $22. I don't remember how much it would be after you even get the DLC. It's probably a little more than $22, probably closer to $30, but $30 for that type of experience, honestly, I love that. And 3DS has the exclusive Smash Run mode. If you have friends that have Smash Bros on 3DS, it's a mode I highly recommend checking out before it gets harder and harder to do, as more and more people stop playing their 3DSs, even in public or with friends. Play it before 3DS is a thing of the past, even more so. Now let's move on to the digital side of things, which is Impending Doom. If you want to play the Yokai Watch series, you know, that's a big one a lot of people talk about. A lot of people are like, this is expensive as heck. You're not wrong, and it still will cost you a pretty penny, even if you do it digitally. A lot of these games aren't on sale, they're just at their MSRP. My best way to do it, if you want to get into the Yokai Watch series, you can get Yokai Watch 1 for like $5 to $10. You get Yokai Watch 2 for about, we're talking Bony Spirit, Fleshy Souls for about 20. So put those together, it's 25. And you're left with another 25. Find 15 more dollars and you get Yokai Watch 3 digitally. That it's still an expensive series because it's full price on the eShop. So get the first 2 games physically if you want to do that, and get the 3rd game digitally. That's my best advice for that. But now there's a ton of like other type of games on the eShop. You got a ton of virtual console stuff. If you have the new 3DS model, you have the SNES. My recommendations: Super Mario RPG. I've never finished it. Looking at someone in the audience potentially who may have ruined my chances partially, but also I'm just really bad at finishing games. It took me like a billion years, so I lessened the hate towards that. You know who you are if you're watching this. But another game people just rave about, Earthbound. Earthbound is an insanely expensive game if you want to get a real one. Or you can get it $8 or something like that on the eShop. I would recommend the latter if you're into the, for lack of better words, quirky RPG. Earthbound is for you. It is weird and people rave about it. I've never personally played it, but I have friends who have played it and are obsessed with it, and I'll take their word for it because they typically have some pretty good opinions. So that is something else out there. But yeah, there's Sega games and Capcom, or there's Sega Virtual Console games, and I think even some Neo Geo games. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but there's a lot of stuff on the eShop for like $5 or $5 to $9, like from actual companies. Obviously, there's also a ton of indies out there. I mean, I could go on forever about that. Some of the ones, this isn't an indie, but like a digital only title, is like the Dylan series. A lot of people talk about that. I've never played it. I don't even know what the consensus is. A lot of people, or a couple of people on my, I asked some hidden gems, they're like, the Dylan series. And I'm like, I've never heard anything about it. Trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head, but I'm kind of blanking out. Honestly, I wasn't thinking about mentioning the indies, but they are out there. There are tons of people publishing for the eShop still, even with the impending closure. So, you know, look out for that. There's a lot of cheap stuff. We'll end that conversation there. But lastly, on the eShop subject, some companies still are putting their games on sale. I think Capcom just did a sale. I'm sure Sega and Capcom typically do sales a lot on there, even like typically when they do one on the Switch, there's one on the 3DS. They do it on the whole eShop. So I think there's a pretty good chance they'll do more. So if you're patient enough, you can get some of these Sega, Atlas, Capcom titles really cheap. Like I think they had Resident Evil Revelations for like, I don't even know, like a couple dollars, or I don't even know if it was a whole dollar. It was really cheap a few weeks ago. So that's another thing. If you're doing this on a budget, look at the eShop, see if there's a sale going on, wait for a sale. Okay, that's pretty much it for my gaming on a budget. If this helped you, let me know. I know this is like, I don't know, a lot of people on my channel are like, I already have a 3DS and have everything you mentioned. Well, if you made it this far or heard me say that, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Maybe this gives insight. You know, you can expand this to a different realm. You can expand these ideas to more expensive games. You just kind of have to enlarge your budget. But yeah, these are just some tips I had. This is something I was thinking about after seeing my 1 millionth comment saying this game's expensive. How do you expect me to do this? I don't I personally don't recommend going after collecting physical games. It's a fun hobby, but an expensive one, and honestly, one that I'm even dialing back just a little bit on. It's cool having the physical collection. It's cool knowing you own something that's valued. It's cool seeing it all together, but at the end of the day, I need to sit down and start playing some of these things. It's getting a little ridiculous. So that's my real piece of advice. Stay in the limit for yourself. Set a budget. It helps. And make good financial decisions, because I am not a financial investor guy. I am the guy in the Fortnite chair. But until next time, everyone, they gotta add Fortnite on this bad boy. Battle Pass win, baby. Battle Pass